don't have any special powers.
Oh, I have one, Johnny. I never give up.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subject comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books, I love talking about them, I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the DC fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. We're actually going to do all three. Batman 433, 434, and 435. Written by John Byrne and penciled by Jim Aparo with Mike DeCarlo as the inker. Covers are by John Byrne. This is The Many Deaths of Batman. And we've got this great cover by John Byrne as he drew all three covers for this three-parter. So I love these issues. I love John Byrne. And I figured I would share them with you. This first issue is silent. There is only one word balloon in the entire issue. So, The Many Deaths of Batman, Chapter 1, Period of Mourning. And so, we have a storm in Gotham City. And so, as I mentioned before, there's only, like I said, there's only one word balloon in the entire issue. We see this cop car here. And so the cops are running for something, and they get through. This guy tells them what he found, and so the cops are going in there, and he's shocked about what he sees, and it is a Batman dead. And they radio something in. Here comes the ambulance. They're gonna take the gurney and take him to the hospital. Everybody's in shock. They can't believe it. They're gonna try and do something here, but he's gonna try to take the mask off, and the other guy stops him. And they're trying to get Batman to come to life, but it goes silent. You're gonna see they're going to what is that called? I forgot what this thing is called, but anyway, where they put electricity and he flatlines. Batman is dead. And so they put him through and take him to the morgue. And so everybody is this guy's not doing very well. And so we got a reporter here. And he's going to go down. Guy says don't, and then he pays him. And so he goes, opens the door, and it is Batman. And he's going to take his picture. And so takes it to his editor. They're going to run it. And Batman dead. And so we've got Arkham Asylum here. And Penguin sees it, and he's unhappy because he's the one that wanted to kill Batman. Two-Face sees it. He flips a coin to decide whether to be upset or not, and he decides to be upset or sad. I don't know. And who is this? Oh, Nightwing. So pulls the paper, and Starfire comforts him. Wayne Manor. Alfred goes outside, grabs the paper, gets breakfast ready, takes it, and then sees the headline, Batman dead. He drops it, and he's going to run upstairs. Nothing there, so he's going to go into the Batcave, and we don't see anything. And so next morning, the Convention of Police Commissioners And this guy comes through and whispers probably that Batman is dead to Commissioner Gordon. And so he's going back to Gotham, and he's escorted to the hospital. And this is the only word balloon in the entire issue where he says "get out." He just assumed that he wouldn't be able to. The artist wouldn't be able to figure out how to do a "get out," and it's kind of funny. And he said if he knew that it was Jim Aparo, that he wouldn't have done that, so he would have made this issue. But here, you can clearly see, I do apologize, that the doctor, where is it? It's in here. Look, where he says this way, he could have just done something like this. You can clearly, so I don't know. I think he just wanted to do the word balloon. So, all right. So he goes in here to sit next to him, and he takes off the cowl, and we see it's not Bruce Wayne. So the reader now knows it's not Batman, but they don't know that here. So meanwhile, the bat signal's out, and we see a Batman here, but he's being propped up, and you can see it's a big guy, kind of like me, propped up. So, and there's an explosion. You see these things fall on the guys, and a piece of Batman's mask, and we get the credits here. Written by John Byrne, penciled by Jim Aparo, inked by Mike DeCarlo. John Constanza gets letters since he did that one thing, and so, all right. And so we go to part 2. Now, half of this issue will be silent, and then words will start coming, and the other with another great cover by John Byrne. John Byrne is in my top 10 of artists. So we continue the many deaths of Batman, and it does start silent, and Batman is chasing whoever this is here. I don't know who this is, and I could look it up, but I don't care. And so they're looking at it, and he grabs them. It is cool that the issue started out silently, kind of giving you the illusion that that it would be another silent issue, and then Batman comes up, and he's fished out. But it turns out we are in Gotham, so that wasn't what we were. So chapter 2, how many times can Batman die? So we got words here as they're pulling him out of the water. And same credits as before, with John Byrne as the writer, and Jim Aparo is the pencils. This is late in Jim Aparo. By the way, Jim Aparo, rest in peace. This is late in Jim Aparo's career. But Jim Aparo is, I describe it as the John Romita of DC. I don't think he ever worked for Marvel. The guy in the 70s was fantastic. 80s Jim Aparo was not quite as good, but Jim Aparo in the 70s. So DC, and I have all of it. DC has these 3 volumes of Batman by Jim Aparo. And if you look at his early work, particularly in The Brave and the Bold, it is spectacular. It is beautiful. But the 80s Jim Aparo was, his work was a little stiff, I thought. As I was growing up reading these, I was like, oh man, it just had a stiffness to it. So anyway, the coroner says dead. Been dead about 8 hours, I'd guess. Rigor still evidence. And Gordon says drowned, or is it too obvious? And the coroner says, hard to say for sure without an autopsy. Funny, somehow that's not all the way I would have expected them to go. It isn't, says Jim. Hold on a minute, you men. And so he takes the mask off. I know that face. That's Mark Jenner. Yeah, I thought he looked familiar. Once upon a time, America's greatest stock car racer won all the cups there were to win 8 or 9 years ago, he says. And so she says, how the hell can Mark Jenner be the Batman? He was paralyzed in a car crash 5 years ago. Yes, but I don't think this is really Batman. And she says, why not? Now that I think of it, fake paralysis could be a perfect cover. And Gordon says, I suppose it would, but there's just one small snack to your theory, Doctor. And Gordon says, this is the fourth dead Batman we turned up in the last 12 hours. And so it says here, 6 hours later. And so he's looking at these things saying, it just doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Why? I've always wondered, why is the commissioner investigating crimes? No commissioner in any city is investigating crimes. They run the whole freaking department. They don't have time to be invested. That's why they have detectives. So I never understood. And I know that in the, whatever, but they police commissioners are not involved in police work. They really are not. They are involved in the political side. They're in charge of the police department as a whole, but they're the ones kissing babies and they're the face of the police department. They're not just the boss. And so that's what they have to do. But here in Gotham, apparently, they need more police detectives. So Jim Gordon has to do it. So he's looking at the pictures here. 4 dead men, each one expert in his particular field. Jenner, the expert driver. Stone, the demolition expert. Kingsley, the chemistry whiz. LaSalle, the bodybuilder. 7 or 8 years ago, this would have been a virtual who's who of the world's wonder kind. Why would anyone want to kill them? And maybe more significantly, why would anyone want to dress him up as Batman before? And then there's a knock on the door. He says, come in. And the coroner says, hope I'm not disturbing you, Commissioner. I thought you'd want to see this report on Jenner ASAP. That means as soon as possible for those of you who don't know. And Commissioner says, I do. But a phone call or messenger would have sufficed for now, Doctor. No need for you to come yourself. And she says, I suppose not, but this business intrigues me. Maybe I've been watching too many reruns of Quincy. That was an 80s show of a medical examiner. But I thought I'd like to get a little more hands-on experience on this case. And Gordon says, I wouldn't have thought of it possible to get more hands-on than your line of work, Doctor. And the coroner says, true, but there's a saying in my profession that the pathologist knows everything, but always too late. I thought I'd like to be on this a little sooner than I usually am, before someone dies, for instance. And so Gordon looks at it and goes, if you can figure out a way to do that, Doctor, please let me know. It would make my job a lot easier. As would reading these reports if they were in English. What's all this about the contents of the lungs? And she says, it was fresh water, tap water, I'd say. Wherever Jenner drowned, it wasn't the river. And so we're at a gym here called the Sweatshop here, and this guy called Mr. Allison, this guy, Mr. Jones, says to Mr. Allison, it's a pleasure. And so they're all like, it's a real honor to have you here. And so he's like, yeah, okay, is this the way to the facility? This is it, sir. Absolutely the finest array of gymnastic equipments in the country. And then, like, we'll see. And, of course, they're all like, oh, it's Peter Allison. And in comes everybody. And so I don't know whether he's an actor or what he is, but everybody's, like, going goo goo gaga over him. And he's not impressed. And so he's going to go into the to the locker room to go change, and he's carrying a briefcase, which I find so funny here. And you can see someone with a not a bow. I don't know what these are called, but oh my God, I forgot what this is called, but I'm not gonna keep going here. And so Batman comes out and says, "All right, let's get the show on the road, shall we?" And so yeah, is that what you're wearing, Mr. Allison? And he says, "Of course. Wasn't that the agreement?" So this guy dressed as Batman. Agreement? Yes, the agreement. The letter you sent me saying you'd pay me $20,000 to come and work out on this new equipment. 20 costume, but Mr. Allison. And so suddenly he's hit here and he falls down. Oh, a crossbow. That's what it's called, I believe. It just came to me. Sorry. All right. And so the coroner's here, and whoever did this really wanted him dead. This arrow has been poisoned. And so Commissioner Gordon's like, a classic case of overkill, Doctor. I'm sure that crossbow bolt did the job perfectly well. Look at that. I wanted to tell you that the name came to me before this part here. So, all right. And so the coroner says, and now you've got another dead Batman in your hands. And he says, yes, that's number 5. Jones, you're sure you saw no one? And he says, not a living soul, sir. You honestly expect me to believe someone walked in here with a crossbow, shot the man, and walked out again, and you had no idea what was happening? And he's like, no, sir. You can tell he's nervous here. If anyone came in, it must have been before I arrived. I just don't know how he got out of that supply closet. And he says, I think I've got the answer on that one, Commissioner. That vent was covered up with these equipment boxes. Whoever did this must have done his homework. I'll say I never knew that vent was there, he says. And so Commissioner says he did more than his paperwork. I like that detail here. He's holding to not get his prints on it. To hit Allison dead center in the heart, a moving target across the gym. I suspect you'd have to be pretty handy with a weapon like this. Hey, that's right. Why didn't I think of that before? And then Commissioner's like, you have something to add, Jones? He said, sure. It was on TV this morning. Rafael D. Jorda arrived in Gotham last night. He was an Olympic crossbow champion 6-7 years ago. And so here we go. And a silent page here as Batman comes through. He's carrying that whoever that guy is. And so he puts him down, and they're all looking at him. And it's a woman, and so he's in another country, and they just keep looking at Batman. It's like, what the hell is everyone looking at me? And of course, Batman dead, mort. So France, is this supposed to be France? I could be France. And so Batman was in France this whole time. And so on the police car, they talk about these killings, and she asks how can she be sure that none of them are really the Batman. And then she says, that paralysis with Jenner's, it could very well be a perfect cover. And who's not to say that there's more than one Batman after all? How can one person do what Batman does? That does seem to be a good point. And Gordon says unlikely unless you happen to know him. I've talked to him, shaken his hand. It's all one guy. And if it was 3 of them, then he's in the wrong line of work. It's that he'd be a bad detective. And so it's kind of funny here. This part is exactly what I had said about the commissioner. So she says, is that why you're involving yourself directly in this case? The police commissioner has no more business chasing around the streets in Gotham playing detective then. And he says, the assistant coroner, which is funny, except Gordon's always in the streets. So, and then she's like, he's your friend. And he's like, yep. And so they looked at the letter where Allison thought he was going to get paid, and the owner of the gym thought it was all for free. And they played off Jones' gullibility and Allison's arrogance perfectly. And so the policeman says, we're here, Commissioner. And so this is what's his name? Di Giorda. And she says, "Wow, I didn't know crossbows did so well." And Gordon tells him he comes from one of the richest men in Italy, one of the richest families in Italy, and he does crossbow because he wanted to do something else. And so she goes, "I hope he didn't skip town after the murder." And this guy, so Gordon shows his badge, and this guy's like, he left instructions not to be disturbed by anyone, and Gordon's having none of it. He's like, he's wanted for questioning. At the very least, his own life could be in danger. What's his room number? And so they give it to him. They're really not supposed to. And so Gordon knocks on the door, and so Gordon introduces himself, and he comes in, and he's like, "Mr. Giorda," he says, "See, you will excuse my outlandish attire, I hope. I have been invited to a midnight costume ball at the home of Bruce Wayne." So he dresses as Batman. He goes, "Wayne, to the best of my knowledge, we have never met. However, he sent a very flattering note expressing a desire to meet me along with this costume." And so Gordon says, "Hey, we've had 5 people dead, all of them dressed as Batman." He laughs. He's like, "No one's gonna kill me just because I'm wearing Batman costume." And he's like, "Hey, the last victim was killed with a crossbow." And of course, he's like, "Are you implicating something? I'm no murderer." And then she says, "So maybe Bruce Wayne is." And of course, Gordon's like, "What?" And so she goes, "Don't you see, Commissioner? It makes sense. The millionaire playboy bored looking for the new game and sparks some interest in his jaded life." And so hunting, what else? Everything else: big game hunting, skydiving, fast cars, fast women, drugs. He's looking for the ultimate thrill, killing Batman. So actually, that would make sense, but we all know better. And so as Gordon and the coroner or assistant coroner argue, he starts to not feel very well, and he falls. And of course, she's like, "He's dead." It would have been even funnier if she said, "He's dead, Jim." That would have been funny. So she says the costume was poisoned, and it was penetrating to his pores. He would have died anyway. Um, and so he's gonna visit Bruce Wayne, and she goes, "You were defending him, and I haven't changed my mind. I still think Bruce Wayne is completely innocent, but the death of Peter Allison led us directly to Rafael DeGiorgio, which is now leading us to Bruce Wayne." And so the cop takes Wayne, and Alfred says, "Yeah, certainly, come right up." And so he's got the coroner with him, and so he says, "I'm not sure that's possible." And he says, "Why not? He's here, isn't he?" "Yes, sir. But that is, I believe so. It's just that Mr. Wayne got in very late last night, and I don't know." And so Wayne comes in and says, "It's all right. I'm prepared to see Commissioner. What can I do for you? Is this isn't a social visit?" And so he says, "Nope." And so, of course, he hears 6 men murdered, all of them in Batman costumes, and myself implicated in the most recent killing. Outrageous. I didn't say you were implicated, but there's reason to believe you may be next." And he says, "I can't imagine why. Surely there's nothing to connect any of these men to myself, to the Batman. Alfred, no one has sent me a Batman costume lately, have they?" And Alfred's like, "Well, not that I know of, sir. Although there is the package that came this morning mail. It's big enough for such a thing, I suppose." So he goes through, and he's like, "I just brought the mail in when the commissioner arrived." And Gordon says, "Don't touch it. It's probably booby trapped. And yet, if the madman means to kill me the same as the other, I need to be able to open the package and put on the costume. Is there really one there? It looks harmless enough." So he takes it off, and there is a Batman costume here. And he's like, "Nothing's going to happen until I put this on." And so they're like, "I can't possibly allow you to do that." And he says, "I don't intend to. I may be idle, but I'm not addled," he says, and tosses it, and the utility belt falls off here. Well, that was an explosive. If it had been, we'd be adding the decorations to your very expensive wall, Mr. Wayne. Perhaps, still, We seem to have confirmation of the theory, Commissioner. Am I next on the And he goes, what is it, Chambers? Some sort of lock on the buckle. I can't seem. Oh, there it is. And there, of course. Oh, what an idiot. Even I was going, what are you touching it? No. And so, um, Gordon takes it. Give me that. This business has got us all spooked. Not without good reason, I'd say, Commissioner. If there was an explosive or something other lethal in that belt, and so you can see the costume is beginning to whatever, and they're like, huh. And it's acid. If you've been wearing that costume, I'd be dead now, with no much left to bury. Then, Master Bruce, someone is trying to kill you, just like the others. But who could it be and why? Unless I'm mistaken, there are a couple more important questions to be answered first, such as who's next. And so we get here to the last page, and this guy walks out. Well, I must say, I heard you big city gals were interesting ways, darling, but this getup strictly necessary? And they're like, no. And you can see like a snake thing, and he screams. And so we're gonna get ready for the last part, part 3 here. And so I love this cover as well. God, John Byrne is so good, and he's a fantastic writer as well, not just his penciling skills. Now, Mike DeCarlo still inks this issue, but the inks are going to look a little different than the previous issue. So I don't know if this was rushed, but we go into a room with a dead lady here, and as they're looking through here, this guy's just eating McDonald's. She kind of drew the bat symbol here, and they're like, whoa. And so, meanwhile, Gordon left like an army to protect Bruce Wayne here, and he's like, this is madness. At this very moment, this insane killer may be plotting his next move, or even making his next step, and there's nothing I can do as long as Gotham's finest are so intent on protecting me. And so he says he doesn't know who it is, and he needs more data before he can make a guess. And so Alfred says he's also baffled. He says the 7 men are different backgrounds, different ages, and all wearing Batman costumes. And so Batman says, the last attempt on me with the Batman costume treated with powerful acid, rigged to activate the fake utility belt, was fastened. You really can't put it together, Alfred? He says, no, sir. If the attack had been against you alone, I would have suspected someone had uncovered your secret. But all these gentlemen, surely this mad killer cannot believe you're all Batman. And Bruce says, not the Batman, Alfred, not exactly, but pieces of him, pieces of his past. You know me probably better than anyone else on Earth, Alfred. You know I'm never one to sing my own praises, but I'll say right now that keeping a calm, straight face as Jim Gordon read the names off the murdered men has to have been one of the greatest acting jobs of all time. You see, I knew each of them, Alfred, every one of them. Without them, there would have never been a Batman. And so back in the office, Gordon continues to look here and just doesn't see a pattern. There's no clues. This is what I meant. The inking just looks so much different than the previous two issues. And so they're going through all the candidates here, or not all the candidates, all the murder victim. And so we're looking at a suburb of Gotham City, and this lady is coming through asking for Jerry, and I don't know who this person would be, but finds him, and must be a girlfriend or something, and he's putting something together, and you can see a little bit. So this is who is killing the Batman, but we don't know a why, so this lets us know that he's the Batman killer. So, alright. And so Bruce Wayne needs to find a way to get rid of these cops, and so Alfred comes up with an idea. He's gonna go and cook them a dinner and keep the police entertained, and so Bruce Wayne is gonna go out into into the Batcave, and so he's like, none of the murder victims were Gotham natives. Whoever it is that's killing them must also have been bringing them into town, luring them somehow. Without my major links to all of the major systems in Gotham, I can easily tap into the various. With my computer links, he can easily tap into the various train and bus schedules, passenger lists. Tens of thousands of people come to Gotham every day. Finding a needle in a haystack could be child's play compared to this. If I didn't have the distinct advantage of knowing exactly which names I'm looking for. And so it says here, 34 minutes later. That's funny. And so this is Box Room. Doesn't look like he's here if I'm too late, and so he opens the door here. Everything looks in order, thinks Batman. Ought to think of Aurelius here in Gotham. He hated travel so much. What could have lured him here? And so it would have to have been something vitally important to him, thinks Batman. I know he's not set a foot of Austria in the 6 years since Mina passed away. And he goes, what's this? And he sees this letter. Of utmost importance to the welfare of your granddaughter, please come to Gotham immediately. Tickets enclosed. And it's a signed Smith, the name he knows me by. Another false lead to Bruce Wayne. Whoever it is that's behind this seems to have correctly deduced that Bruce Wayne is somehow pivotal part in the Batman's life. That picture, he says, and so he looks at it. An odd coincidence that this should be this particular photograph. I remember so clearly when I took it, and so Bruce is remembering, and so Mina and Aurelius Bach were a wonderful couple, kind, gentle. They reminded me of how I thought my parents might have been at a similar age. It pained me to have to deceive them even a little. So, and so Bach has sort of been training Bruce in detective work here, and he says, I hope you can put it to good use, and he says, I will. And so Batman says, he taught me everything I knew about the fine art of toxicology, how to recognize the most insidious poisons from the tiniest whiff, the merest trace. And so he comes through, and of course it's Batman, and then of course they're like, it could be somebody else dressed as him, and he's like, nope, I really am Batman. Batman says, Mr. Bach is an acquaintance of mine. I was hoping to meet with him here. Why are you here? And they go, well, I hope he wasn't too good a buddy of yours. The only place you'll be meeting him is the morgue. He was killed yesterday. It took us till now to track down where he was staying. So Batman is too late. And so now at the morgue here, and you can see Batman's shadow over here. So he's already arrived. This last one, Weber, death by snakebite. I don't even have to do an autopsy. The signs are plain. Then it all comes back to Stone, to the one who may have already been dead. And Batman answers, or who may not have been Stone. And so they're like, what do you mean not Stone? And Batman says, in the other piece, that doesn't match the shape of the rest of the puzzle, Commissioner. In addition to being already dead at the time, yes, I've read your report, Dr. Stone, was the only one killed in the manner of his expertise. And so, considering the victims chronologically, roughly halfway through this pattern spree, a deliberate pattern begins to evolve, as if the murderer had already decided to send a specific message to someone, me. Perhaps though that message eludes me. LaSalle, the first victim, was beaten and crucified. Jenner, the third, was drowned. These apparently random methods of execution meaningless. But Allison, the gymnast, was shot with a rigged crossbow. His death was followed by Gicordia, the expert bowman who was poisoned. Each one was killed in a manner of expertise of the next victim. And so But the next intended victim was Bruce Wayne. He's hardly an expert in poisons. No, however, he was not the next victim. The clue you found in Jagorda's hotel suite led you to Wayne. But the next victim was a man named Bach, an expert in all forms of poison. He was killed by an armored car painted with the Wayne Foundation logo, another rather clumsy connection to Bruce Wayne, but perhaps the only one which would make this new pattern work to include Wayne. And so Bach Interpol, why wasn't that death brought to my attention? And Batman says, doubtless because you've been focusing on the so-called Bat Killer. And since Bach was not wearing an imitation of my costume at the time of his death, and she's like not wearing a costume, then how did you know he was one of the Bat Killer's victims? And Batman says, it's enough that I did know, Doctor. Enough I know why these men are being killed. Why? Why, asked Gordon. Because of their unfortunate connection to me, Commissioner. With the exception of Bruce Wayne, who was a logical, if erroneous, choice to be on the list. Each of those men had a part in the process that led to my becoming Batman. These were men who trained me. Someone has clearly discovered this, and now for this part in my genesis, these otherwise innocent individuals are being made to pay with their lives. And so now in the office here, I think a more detailed explanations are in order. And Batman says, I'd agree, Commissioner, if the time were not so precious. This is a list of the five remaining men I think could be target for extermination. According to my computers, 3 of them are already in Gotham, though none have checked into any hotels. That's where you come in. There's a limit to how much physical search I can carry out on my own. You men are already assigned to the Bat Killer case, so you can cover some of the territory I might not be able to get in on time, says Batman. And this cop says, just 4 of us. Seems like we should mobilize the whole force on this. And Batman says, no. I have a plan for snaring our killer, but for it to work, we will need to be discreet. If I'm right, you men can protect 4 of the possible victims while I go after the 5th. A full mobilization will only serve to alert the killer we're onto him. And so, if that happens, I'm afraid we'll lose him forever. And so, here's the killer, and he's looking for 1307, and of course, he's found that he's wearing gloves here, and so Jerry brings in the bat costume, and he says, now tell me, Mr. Jones, perhaps you tell me about all this. Your communication with my Delhi office was most mysterious. He says, I realize that, sir. It was necessary that I not reveal all my details in my cable. You see, I am the Batman and I need help. And he says, you're the Batman. Forgive me, Mr. Jones, but you do not seem to possess the necessary physique. And he's like, I'm a master of disguise. Perhaps it would help you believe me if I remind you of the young American with whom you once shared your great knowledge in Ophelia. And so he, of course, does remember. But I'm afraid you're mistaken. I've never tutored an American. He goes, never, but I was so sure at the time. And does that mean you won't help me? And then he goes, I think that means you're beyond help, Stone. Now, why don't you surrender quietly? And then he realizes that it is Batman. And so he throws the suit at him and kind of electrocutes us. No, you don't, Batman. Stone is dead. I killed him. All the trails that lead to him end with the nameless cadaver I exploded over downtown Gotham. The cadaver I dressed as you to match the pattern to make sure everyone thought I was dead. You try to kid yourself, Stone. No one can vanish so completely. I'd never be able to find them. And he says, I have, Batman. Don't you see? That's where I began. That was my core, my plan. I spent years creating a whole new life, Batman, and not you nor your enemies are ever going to harm us. And so he's like, us, and he sort of falls. And so an hour later here. So this is one of these things where I think the story became a little too like he's got the third part, and this probably would have done much better with a fourth part because John Byrne is sort of dumping everything on this, and so Alfred says, "Hey, if you knew it was Stone, why don't you pick him up?" And he's like, "Because he was telling the truth. All data ends on Frederick Stone uh, with his death here." And then Alfreda says, "But if Mr. Stone is one of the men you contracted years ago to help train you, why would he be killing off all the others?" And he says, "I'm not sure. His exact motive is just yet." So see, there's still mysteries to solve, but there's only like 10 pages left of this book. So as to his inclusion of Bruce Wayne, I suspect that was a result of his process of deduction in finding the others. I learned about explosives from Stone. Um, he must have read of my using method, only he could have taught me. And from that, he must have reasoned the experts have taught me their other skill. As for Bruce Wayne, well, Ra's al Ghul deduced my identity by locating the one man who was buying all the things Batman would need. So he's saying the guy just deduced and guessed correctly. So he dresses up, and then he got a little burned here. So, but Bruce Wayne is gonna power through here. And so here at the house, but Jerry, I don't understand. What's wrong? What happened after you dropped me off downtown? He says, "I did it to protect you, Sally, all of you. I knew that if I could have guessed who we were, his enemies could guess, and that meant I'd be in danger. We'd be in danger for as long as I lived." Guess what, Jerry? Whose enemies? You're not making sense. And so he says, "I knew he could only have learned the triple insert maneuver from me. Don't you see? That's when I guess he'd learned all his other skills from other other experts." It just was a big plot. I mean, it's so complicated. At that moment, I realized that I knew something else might make the same guess. The Joker or Two Face or any of the other ones. The Batman, Jerry, you're talking about the Batman, his enemies. But why would his enemies try to hurt you, try to kill you or me? Because I helped train him. Haven't you been listening? I taught him everything about explosives, everything including the triple insert. I only taught that one other man, and that man has to be the Batman. And so, um, all this just because it just it's comic book fun. It just seemed to be overly complicated. Jerry's going to leave. He's gonna make sure that it's all said and done. He says, "Wait here, you'll be safe." And so as he's saying, Batman shows up, but he has already left here, and so he's got one more package to deliver. And so he puts on the mask here, and he goes through, and then he's like, "Put this on so I can kill you." And he's going to, and then we're gonna get to the sort of the cover as Batman shows up here. And so Batman, I like this, by the way, this pose of Batman with the cape. I'm telling you, Jim Aparo, again, rest in peace. He was really the it artist in the 70s here. So Batman basically repeats everything that he had already said about the enemies of his enemies, and he stops him. And anyway, up here he says, "It is impossible. It is impossible. I destroyed all the trails leading to me. You couldn't have found Frederick Stone." And he says, "I didn't. I found Jerry Sawyer. And I found him because of this girl, Mary McGinnis. She led me to you. That was the girl in the beginning. But she's dead. I realized after I used her to lure Weber to the hotel room to get him into the Batman costume. I realized she might give a description of me to the police. I was disguised, but you might have recognized me from her description." And so he says, "In a way, that's exactly what's happened, Stone. Mary couldn't identify you. She had no idea who you were, what you really looked like. She left this scratch into the rug as you choked the life out of her. And this would have been nothing if one of the investigating officers had made the jump in logic necessary to connect Mary's death scrawls with the series of bad killings. And when I examined the site of Mary's death, the clothes she was wearing, I found traces of this chemical fertilizer, a very special chemical fertilizer used exclusively in the growing of Andes snow orchids. I'm telling you, this is so. The way John Byrne just kind of gives us everything, it does seem like a 70s stories. And so Batman's like, there's only 3 commercial florists, yada, yada, yada. And so Gordon shows up and he's like, you can't connect me with any of this. And Batman says it's him. And, good luck. And he's going to have to give the wife some the bad news. So, and then of course we get the credits at the very end. So yeah, so Batman 433, 434, and 435 written by John Byrne, penciled by Jim Aparo. I hope you liked it. The ending was sort of forced. It just kind of was like, oh crap, I'm running out of time and I have to give away the mystery. But you can definitely tell it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo mystery where everything's just sort of gets spoon-fed to you toward the very end. But it was a nice story. I think it could have been 4 parts, and if it's in 4 parts, then perhaps the 3rd issue isn't so rushed. Also, the guy thinking everyone would be able to figure it out, that's something else. But kind of like an elaborate way to try to get rid of people. But all right. So all in all, it's not too bad. Could have been better. Could have been worse. So it's all right. I like John Byrne, and the covers were fantastic. So even if you didn't like the story, I would appreciate a like for the video. But you do you. And so thanks for listening. Goodbye.